If you're running your own business, you're probably thinking about growth. You're scaling, you're adding complexity, and you're chasing bigger. But what if all of that is actually distracting you from what you really want? Welcome back to the Champion Mindset Collective podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Dahya. Today, my guest is Benas Leonavicius. Benas is the founder of Avium, a personal branding and visibility agency helping world-class experts, speakers, authors, and founders become easier to find, trust, and book online. Today, we're going to talk about the freelance to agency transition, the hidden cost of complexity, why bigger is not always better, and how to build something profitable, intentional, sustainable before chasing scale. Yes, it's great to have you here on the Champion Mindset Collective. Welcome.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, welcome. Now, Benas, tell us a little bit about your journey and also what you've done over the years and how did you get here from childhood to now?
Yeah, that's a long story, but I've been a freelancer for the past 10 years and just recently transitioned from being a freelancer to now being an agency owner. Everything started with my father. He was a businessman, so he always encouraged me to actually read about business books or like get into entrepreneurship. However, I just didn't realize that I would get into that so soon. My initial plan was to go to university, get good grades, and then maybe start work at Apple or Google. That was my dream job at that time. But everything turned out quite differently.
Yeah. Tell us about the journey and what did you do? You started more than 10 years ago writing SEO content. You tried the corporate path, but you realized that wasn't for you. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah. So I did have a few jobs while sort of at university and then one afterwards, but I never really felt like I kind of belonged to the traditional corporate job. So I worked at marketing agencies, I worked at other companies, I had some internships at really big corporations as well, but I don't know, it never really I felt that I wasn't supposed to be there, but I didn't really pay too much attention to those feelings. I was young, I was still studying, there was still internships and stuff like that. But since high school, I always wanted to start something. I think I had this itch to get going, to start trying some projects, I don't know, building some apps, doing something. But school was very tough on me. I had difficulty getting good grades and learning. So I made a promise to myself that as soon as I leave high school and as soon as I go to university, I will basically begin doing something. Start figuring out how to earn money, start figuring out how to maybe build something or create something. And I remember my last year in high school, this was all I could think of. Like my main reason for finishing high school was to quickly go to university so that I can be free from all of the stress and anxiety that I have at high school, because at least what I heard is that university is usually sort of easier than high school in terms of studying and in terms of everything. So I thought, okay, amazing. I'll have some time. I can sort of begin. And as soon as actually I got to university, the first thing that I bought was a whiteboard and a pen so that I can start writing and kind of crafting ideas and basically trying to build something. But a very interesting thing that happened where for the first 4 months, all I was doing was just writing out ideas, kind of working on my whiteboard, but nothing really happened. And that really annoyed me since I made a promise to myself to get started, like do something. And I didn't do anything for the first 4 months, which is almost like 20% of your overall university time there. So I was really annoyed and eventually made this decision to start something. And at that time, I went to a few live presentations where some people were showing how they were successful with an e-commerce shop. And that's what I decided to do. Hey, let me just start an e-commerce store and see sort of how it goes. It didn't last long. It failed in like 6 months. I think me and my friend back then, were two of us starting this together. I think we made like a couple of sales, did probably everything wrong, but at least we kind of got started. And I'm really happy that I pulled the plug on getting started, because ever since then, I never stopped doing something. So that was like the initial like thing. And I also remember that it was New Year's Eve and I bought the initial, because we wanted to start the e-commerce shop. We were selling bow ties and ties to men. So basically, I found some suppliers. We found some cheap bow ties and ties, and I bought like some, I don't know, remember how many, but like I remember it was quite a significant amount. I think it was like a couple of $100s, and to me back then that was like a lot. And I remember at New Year's Eve, I actually pressed the buy button to actually order those ties so that we can begin, that store and stuff like that. But ever since then, I always had some kind of projects going on. And eventually, like by just trying to do things, I kind of naturally landed into offering services. And that was much, much easier than starting something more like physical, like building an app or starting an e-commerce business and just starting to offer services. First, it was writing articles, then it was some other marketing activities. Eventually, I kind of got into search engine optimization, which I then started to specialize. And basically, that was my main skill and expertise that I developed and actually freelanced for actually more than 10 years now.
Wow. I did the complete opposite. I went into corporate world and stayed in there for like 30 years. and then
that was the plan for me. I mean, the plan for me was to go to work at Google and Apple, and maybe by the time I'm 30 or over 30, like then I should maybe start something. So my plan was basically like that, but it turned out to be quite different.
yeah, for me, it was, I think, from 26 to 55, 50 something.
Hmm.
Yeah. In some ways, I was like, oh, I'm thinking, well, it would have been nice to get a start earlier like you did. But,
Yeah.
we all go through these experiences for a reason.
Hmm.
So, yeah. So now today you're transitioning from solo freelancer to agency founder. And that means you're hiring people, you're building systems, you're onboarding clients, learning how to grow without losing the focus. How is that going for you?
It's new. The experience is very new to me. And I am actually learning a lot about like how this process works and everything like that. I do have these skills. It's not the first time I hired people. I worked with contractors for quite a while. I did hire for other agencies as well. I did hire for my own projects, but never really something that serious or somebody that I would consider for a full-time role. So, hiring contractors for a specific task is a bit different than trying to hire team members that kind of do a lot, not just one very specific task. So I'm learning a lot as the process kind of goes and evolves. But I'm finding that I'm enjoying this a lot more than I would have guessed, interestingly, because I did have these preconceived notions about how the agency should be run. And that stopped me actually from starting an agency. I thought about starting an agency like maybe 5, 6 years ago. I already had this thought that, that's the natural transition from me being freelancer to kind of growing further is to go the agency route. But at that time, I thought that the agency needs to be like 30 people. You need to have an office. You need to become a manager of managers. And I don't know, just the way my experience working in a marketing agency and what I saw basically told me that it needs to be like this big thing, like very complicated thing, and that your job like completely switches from actually doing the thing to managing people. And at that time, again, I didn't feel that managing people is something that I want to do. It didn't seem like interesting to me. But now with more experience, now having been at several masterminds, having talked to people that are running small and lean teams, I actually understood that there is a better way of not a better way, but like a different way of doing things. So it's not necessarily that the other way is wrong. It's just, it's not for me. And I then understood that, oh, you can actually build a lean marketing agency that is remote, that is like 5 to 7 people, and that still can actually grow and have quite big revenues. And you don't need to manage people, and you can have one main person that does a lot of the operations and stuff. So basically, all of the assumptions that I had about how this should be run are basically wrong. There are other ways of doing things. And I think this is why I'm now enjoying the process, because I'm building something that works for me rather than what I thought I was supposed to do.
Yeah, well, we often go back to the old ways of doing things, and they don't always work because times are changing.
Hmm.
So with AI, the whole marketing, the SEO space is changing. So, like If we've always done it one way, it doesn't mean that that's the only way to do it. There's definitely other ways of doing it. Like you, my business is me. That's it.
Hmm.
Although when I need to, I will bring in contractors to help me do the work. So what I decided was that I'm not going to have full-time employees. I'm only going to have people in my business that are wanting to start their business.
Hmm.
So what I want to do is help them become an entrepreneur and guide them and mentor them, right? So that's the way I'm operating, and I don't follow all the rules of every other business, but it works for me. And like,
Yeah, yeah. That's the thing I realized. I mean, 5, 6 years ago, I had way less experience about. I was barely freelancing for like 5 years, having done a couple of projects and stuff like that. Just being at that time starting to be self sufficient and stuff like that. So yeah, one of the things I did understood is that there are so many different ways of doing the same thing. And there are no right or wrong route. I mean, if you look at and if you start reading biographies, there are so many different ways people achieve even the same things that it's your own path and you start at your own time and you can forge that path in a way that you see fit for your kind of lifestyle for
yeah,
your situation. So yeah, that opened up me to explore a lot more in okay, so what other assumptions that I have that might be wrong that I should challenge and I should see if there is a way to do things that would fit my own situation better.
do you know, this afternoon I just came back from a coffee catch up with a business owner who's been in the IT business for many years, and one, it was great to learn from him, but we were talking about how we can work together. I've been in IT myself, but we're not competing against each other. We're actually going, well, how can we help build each other as
Hmm.
businesses? So there's many ways you can work. And these days, also, there's the opportunity to create a lifestyle business where you have a lifestyle, but your business runs around your lifestyle, not the other way around. For many years, we built businesses and then our lifestyle was around the business. We can now flip the script and go, I can create a lifestyle and have my business support it.
Yeah, when I found out about the lifestyle business 2, 3 years ago, I fell in love with this idea that you can build it this way around because I was always the kind of person that, I mean, I like business, I like doing things, but I also have a lot of things that I do like to do like outside of the business, all of the life that I have, all of the hobbies that I have, all of the friends, fiance, my dog, and stuff like that. So I do want to balance that, and having find that there is this thing such as a lifestyle business really, really drew me in, and
Mm,
I'm basically trying to kind of replicate that and do this thing with the agency.
yeah. I recently joined up Dent, which is Daniel Priestley's business, and he
Hmm.
talks a lot about lifestyle business. So I'm on this journey myself. Of I've joined this accelerator called Chaos. So that's I'm looking forward to the journey ahead and see where that ends up.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
real nice. I love the guy. I follow his YouTube channel, his advice. I think he's super, super smart the way sort of he does things. Then, yeah, really, really. I've also read one of his books, and it really also sort of opened my mind in how things can be run and what is this new world and, what we should care about. So, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
he's
Hey,
amazing.
this podcast is all about having these conversations with amazing people and be able to share it and being able to learn. I call it my university because I never went to
Hmm.
university, and so this
Mm.
is my university. I get to have conversations and learn from some of the best people in the world.
Yeah,
Now,
it's amazing that you can actually do that these days. You have so much knowledge in terms of like ability to chat with anybody, every corner of the world, like we're doing right now. Then you have ability to actually listen to a podcast of really successful people talking about how they're doing things. That wasn't the case like 20, 30 years ago. There were like books and stuff, but it was so difficult to actually meet these people, see what they're saying, and get all of that knowledge to access that. It was much, much more difficult.
yeah. Benas, you talk about openly about the real parts of the journey, finding clients, escaping the feast and famine, moving
Hmm.
from one project to retainers, building teams, hiring mistakes, deciding whether bigger is actually better. Tell us more about that.
Yeah. When I was a freelancer, I've been freelancing for over a decade. I think I made every possible mistake while freelancing, and slowly but surely kind of found my way up the freelancing ladder and understood how many different mistakes I kind of make. And one of the things, for example, that really was holding me back was this constant chase. Freelancing is amazing. Remote work, you work for yourself. There are a lot of benefits. But one of the downsides, at least, that I found is that I was basically getting projects, and then those projects end maybe in like a couple of months' time. And then I basically need to find another client, another job, another project. And then that ends in a couple of months. And then I need to do that again. And I found that it's very draining. Like, it's very difficult to sustain this kind of momentum, because it feels like, imagine if you have just a regular 9 to 5 job, but instead of having that, you need to switch to 9 to 5 every like 3 to 4 months. Having the interviews, sending your CVs and going through onboarding, like basically how it felt me being a freelancer. So that was one of the downsides that was in while freelancing. But at some point, I understood several key things of how I can basically escape that and start to scale a bit more as a freelancer, because I understood that, for example, one of the good things about freelancing is that nobody really ties you to the actual office or the time that you work on any project. So that's one of the biggest benefits, I think, for the freelancing. If you have a 9 to 5 job, first of all, you have a contract that basically says you have to work like 40 or 50 hours per week. Usually you even have to be at the office. Even if you don't have that much work, you still kind of need to be there or look busy. There are different things that kind of happen and at the corporate world. And with freelancing, the good thing is that if you are able to be efficient with your time, so let's say we can do a task in 2 hours instead of trying to look like it takes you 4 hours to do the task, well, that's actually a benefit for you, because you free up your time to either have free time or to do other things like find new clients, do more projects and stuff like that. So one of the few things that I found and did was I figured that I need to start doing retainers with the clients rather than doing one-time projects. One-time projects for freelancers, unless it's very expensive and they're very huge and they take like 6 months, maybe there are always exceptions depending on sort of your expertise and what you do. But usually, from what I found, retainers are much, much more sustainable for a freelancer rather than one-time projects. So I basically switched from offering one-time things to actually offering retainers. While doing that, I also understood that in search engine optimization, when I was offering one-time projects, there were usually something like a very specific task, like a keyword research, SEO audit, maybe some competitors analysis. And later on, I understood that I was offering very specific things, but not a specific result or outcome. So the people that were coming to me, first of all, they need to know what SEO is. They need to know what keyword research is to even like order that thing. So I was basically servicing people that already know how to do SEO. They just need to basically get somebody to do their work for them. What I then shifted to, rather than offering keyword research, I should offer organic traffic growth. I should offer keyword rankings. So I should basically switch from specific tasks that I'm completing to a specific result that I'm achieving. Once I switched that, I found that now I'm actually targeting people that don't know how to do SEO. They don't know that SEO, they don't know what the keyword research is, what SEO audit is, which is a good thing for me, because then I still do the same things, but now I'm offering the result, which then requires me to be a part of the business. And rather than producing SEO audit that then somebody else implements, I'm the one that's doing the SEO audit, I'm the one implementing it, and then I'm the one showing the actual results. So this whole switch from one-time projects to retainer, and then switching from a specific task to results, really pushed my freelancing quite far. And then the last thing that I did is that I understood that I need to find either the clients, the websites, or the work that I do to spend as little time as possible with still providing the same result and the same quality of work. Because there are like clients where I basically provide, like, the service that I provide is essentially the same. But if I work with SaaS companies, they usually have very big teams. Their websites are usually very difficult. They have a lot of different sort of services. The team member size is very big, which means there are a lot of decisions to be made along the chain. Everything takes much longer. Basically, my time requirement to work with a SaaS company on their project to grow their organic traffic almost requires me to be sort of like almost like part-time job, meaning that I maximum that I can do is like work on 2 SaaS companies at the same time, and then that's it. What I found is that if I switch the clients or the specific services that I provide, where I basically lower the number of hours required for me to work on a project, I mean, it's basic math. I can then do, instead of working on 2 projects, I can work on like 5 or 6 projects at a time. Uh, Meaning that I can have quite a few clients always circling around and always having those retainers on hand. When I then switched from working with these very difficult projects, usually e-commerce projects, SaaS projects, to working on smaller websites, but still providing the same value just for different people, I found that my time like decreases a lot, but I'm charging pretty much basically the same rate for those people as well. So having all of these 3 key things combined really allowed me to scale my freelancing quite a bit, because now I had like 5 to 7 clients working at the same time. All of them were retainer based. A lot of the clients that I've worked with for years. So it's a very long term relationship. So that provided me the ability to basically escape that feast and famine cycle. I don't need to look for clients every day, all day. The projects don't end. If the one client project ends, then it doesn't like break my income. I still have like 5 or 6 other sort of clients that I work with. So I can easily start looking for somebody, maybe looking for referrals, maybe it's called DMing. And it's a much more sustainable path this way. So all of this, I mean, it took me years to figure this out. Now I'm like just telling this as it was very easy, but like every single decision like that took me years to figure out. Some of the things I didn't even knew I was doing. Only like looking back, I understood what happened basically when I did that. So I was just kind of following my gut, seeing what worked, experimenting, failing, and somehow ended up eventually doing the right things that led me to scale my freelancing to a whole other level.
Yeah, definitely. When you're just doing a project and you get paid and then that's it, that's the end of it. But having a retainer based, service based and retainer based model definitely helps. Like I was just talking to actually a guest who is becoming a client. Believe it or
Hmm.
not, it was about, okay, definitely they want an outcome, but there
Hmm.
is a monthly recurring retainer that's attached to that as well, because there's an implementation cost, but then there's a monthly cost as well.
Yeah. Also, I feel that, at least in my specific situation, I mean, I feel that it applies to a lot of people as well. But like, I also organically wanted to switch to a retainer based service because I can provide way more value this way. If I would maybe be, let's say, if I would be a website designer, or I create websites, or I'm a graphic designer and I create brand books and stuff like that. Maybe those types of things do have like immense value for the business. But in my specific case, like the biggest value that I was able to provide to clients was working with them for a long time to actually achieve the results that they want. So for me, also working at a retainer, it wasn't only about the actual income. I was actually able to get good results, which then I can share with others. Then now I have case studies of actually people achieving the results that they want from their website. So for me, from what I've seen, a lot of other services that people provide, the retainer based model usually in most cases do provide most amount of value. So it's also about that. With one-time projects, it's very difficult to provide very high value for a one-time thing unless it's a very specific tangible outcome that you provide, such as a, let's say, a website.
Yeah, and I think also on that journey, you also discover other services and other products that you can then, you know, turn into recurring revenue as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Also, for all of the listeners, I'm not against one-time projects, as it may sound. They still have their own place, and I still feel that it's relevant when you see an opportunity to turn that into like a retainer model. So there might be some onboarding costs, there might be some things, but you always need to think about how you can provide some long-term value to a client. It can start as a one-time project, but you always need to have like structure your services in a way where there is some kind of a retainer afterwards. And it's a
Mm.
very natural retainer, which you also talk about upfront. So it's not like you do a one-time project and then you upsell, which I mean, that's also possible. But usually I like to present this as a retainer as a main thing. But then a one-time project that we do at the start is a very specific outcome that needs to be done first. I mean, again, depending on what type of services that you offer, and then the retainer is always the main thing that you want your like sell to your clients.
Yeah, 100%. It's because you might be spending a lot of effort upfront to implement the whatever you're doing, and then it's like, hey, this is what the monthly cost is.
Hmm.
And when you do that upfront, you're actually building that trust with the
Hmm.
with the client as well. So yeah,
Yeah, sometimes it's good to, for example, if some clients are reluctant to sign up for very big and expensive retainers, one-time projects usually allow kind of them to not commit to anything yet, but still see sort of how you work together and still receive something tangible. So one-time projects, if you use them strategically, they can be a very, very useful asset. So it's not like you only need retainers. You can still use one-time projects, but they need to be used strategically and they have their own sort of place and time as well.
now you mentioned how expensive complexity can be for someone who's listening, who's running a lean business. What are some of those hidden costs that they should be aware of if they are thinking about growing?
Yeah. I'm the kind of person that really always wants to make things as simple as possible. Like, I really don't like complexity. I want things
Me
to
either.
be as simple as possible. Even for example, the software that I use, I'm kind of tech savvy. I like IT things. I like figuring out how new apps work or if there's a new productivity app or thing out there. I do like to test them out. But over the years, what I found is that I'm also kind of just switching back to the most basic version of things. And nowadays, I'm really, really limiting of what I let myself into, because a lot of the things that draw me in are like very shiny objects that look nice, but they don't provide value, or I don't use them as often, or they are too complex for my needs. So nowadays, for example, how I do stuff is that I always use the most basic version of whatever thing that is. And then once I reach the limitations of that specific, let's say, app that I'm using, only then I know the exact things that I need. And only then I might consider switching. But I'm the kind of guy that I basically love the most simple task managers, the most simple notes apps. And it seems that I don't need anything else. Everything else is just noise and complexity for the sake of complexity. So I really like things to be as simple as possible. Running a lean business, there are always hidden costs in basically whatever that you do. For example, having a lean business, at least right now, means that I need to be involved in quite a lot of things. I mean, I'm trying to basically change that, but you still are sort of the head of your business. So you still need to make sure that everything runs as smoothly as possible. So the hidden cost usually is your time, like spending time on a lot of different like on a lot of things that you are building is something that not many people think about. Like transitioning from being a freelancer to an agency owner takes actually a lot of time and a lot of effort. Now that I'm finding out, it's not as simple as just, hey, if you have high revenues and then you hire like 5 people and then in a couple of months time, you should be good and set. No, it wouldn't work that way. The every additional person, it basically adds an additional complexity layer to the agency. And it really scales quite a lot. So it's not like 1+1 = 2. It's like 1+1 = 3, and then 1+1+1 = 6. So basically, every person adds a lot of complexity to the business. So the hidden costs, I suppose, they are the the ones that nobody basically sees, and it's your time investment into making sure things run smoothly. So before you become that lean business, that sort of lifestyle business that runs and operates by itself, it's probably takes like years to actually set that up like properly. So, I mean, even before I launched my agency, the first person that I hired was a digital business manager, not the delivery person, not the SEO person that actually can do the work for the clients, but a digital business manager, because I wanted to make sure we have the systems, we have the process, we have all of the most boring stuff done right, even the SOPs of how we work, how we communicate, so that it's clear from the start, from the first few hires, that this is the way things run, this is the process, and this is what we should follow. So for me, it was working with my digital business manager for almost like 4 months before we hired any SEO person that actually helped me with the client work. So I was doing the client work, I was working on my business, I was working with the digital business manager to basically make sure that we have the systems, the apps, the communication tools to scale everything. Because when you are a freelancer, you don't need a lot of the stuff because you're just one person. You
Yeah.
don't need Slack because it's just you. You have your Gmail account, you have your labels, you have some automations, and then that's it. But that kind of system, it doesn't scale with the agency, meaning that you need to revamp how you do things. I've learned that now when I did this transition, is that a lot of the setup is required for you to be able to run that agency. So if you're thinking about growing, the hidden costs are going to be a lot of time and effort and sweat basically in building this stuff before it actually runs. So that transition period is probably, I think it seems that nobody really talks about that. It's either you're a freelancer or then boom, you're an agency owner suddenly. And then it makes sense because from the outside, I mean, even from my end, like I was until I launched the website and officially became the agency founder and even changed my LinkedIn and stuff. Like it took like 6 months. And all everybody saw was like, hey, now you have a website and now your LinkedIn says founder instead of freelancer. Then that's it. So from the outside, it may look like everything was very sudden and there were no issues. I was a freelancing. Now I just made a website and now I'm an agency owner. But there are so many things that happen behind the scenes that not a lot of people know about. I mean, actually, that's one of the reasons I now started vlogging the actual my journey from transitioning from a freelancer to an agency owner, because I believe there aren't any well documented cases. Nobody really shares that information. So actually on my YouTube channel, previously I shared about everything about how to become a freelancer, how to grow as a freelancer, but now I've shifted and now I actually just film myself every week, basically what I'm doing, and then sharing that on my YouTube channel so that others can see what it actually is like to run an agency, transition from an agency, hire people, deal with the challenges. So I believe that might be quite an interesting take, as I haven't seen many of other people doing the same thing.
Yeah. I've built some apps. Well, actually, what we were talking about before about the just keeping it basic and simple.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What I ended up doing is rather than going and getting lots of different apps that do different things and only using some of the capability of it,
Yeah.
what I ended up doing is going, well, actually, what are the bits that I need? And then I built it
Yeah,
myself.
nowadays you can, this
Yeah.
is one of the other thing nowadays. You can actually build your own apps with the AI and all of this. I mean, how many people now, I've seen so many, actually other agency owners that are just building some of the invoicing tools or hourly tracking tools, like the very simple things, but very specific for their needs. And I mean, yeah, this is amazing that we can actually do this, this day and age.
I mean, the good example is like, I mean, you saw in the discovery call what I've built, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've got something like 68 guests in my pipeline, and I'm like, imagine if I was to email every single one of those back and
Yeah.
forth to be able to book a call with them. Well, I thought, well, hang on, I'll just send them to a page. They've got all the information in front of them. They fill it out, they book the call, and I'm done. And I get
Yeah.
a notification when
Yeah.
someone's booked in. Now, you know
Yeah.
what? There are people booking discovery calls and which I haven't even communicated with. People are finding me and just booking. And I'm like, it's working automatic.
Yeah. Honestly, what you have is very complicated, but like in a good way. Like what you've built, like the system that you showed me, it's very, very sophisticated, but in a very like in a good way. Like it's so well thought of, and everything is so streamlined. And I mean, previously, like 10 years ago, it would have taken actually 2 to 3 people to basically manage what now your system manages for you. So you can actually be like a one man business owner, because you have such a sophisticated system managing all of the back end, all
Yeah.
of the stuff for your podcast. So yeah, I mean, I was very, very impressed of what I saw. I haven't seen anything like that from anyone. I've seen people build very specific small tools, but you've built like a whole ecosystem. So
Yeah.
props to you on that.
Yeah. I mean, my goal is like, I remember back in the early days when I started the podcast, I was listening to people like Lewis Howes and Rob Dial from the Mindset Mentor and Jay Shetty. And, my goal was that in 10 years, I want to do 3,000 episodes, which means I've got to be releasing
Yeah.
3 episodes a week.
Yeah.
And guess what? I'm doing 3 episodes a week now.
Yeah, you are. I've seen your, I've seen the calendar and how like booked, and yeah, it's insane. Like the operation that you're running, I actually really admire that. Like this is awesome.
And as I was saying before, one of my guests is actually becoming a client because
Hmm.
she's feeling like she's in chaos at the moment.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I'm like, she's like, oh, I'm thinking of going and getting school, and I'm thinking of doing this. I'm like, you don't need it.
Hmm.
I've built it. I've built the same functionality in my ecosystem.
Hmm.
So you can have one platform that does everything for you.
Yeah.
And she was like, wow. Yeah. Okay. So what is one common mistake that you've seen people make when they add more layers?
One of the mistakes that I've read and saw a lot about, and the thing that I think I avoided because I was basically following the advice of other people that went through all of that. But it seems that if you start hiring people to deliver the work for you, that is the wrong way to approach scaling. Because what happens is if you're a freelancer and then you bring another freelancer that helps you with the delivery of the work, that might work on one. But still, if you bring that person into a no systems place, then you kind of instantly become the manager of that person. Like you have to manage everything that they do because, well, there is no system in place. Or you're starting to create that system while that person is in. Again, that creates very unnecessary complexity. The person that you hired also doesn't really understand how things work. So it adds complexity to them of what they communicate, how they work. So even just this first person, you're just two of you, it already adds, I think, too much complexity and chaos, which could have been avoided. The advice here is to always hire somebody to build systems for you, to organize the work before you bring in the actual delivery person that can help you with the services. So hiring somebody like the digital business manager to basically first of all sort out what you have is the right move. And then because if you hire the delivery person, then the next person that you might want to hire is also another delivery person, because you see that you're not really, you're growing, and then you might start to feel that you have more time to basically service more clients instantly. But then what happens is that you hire another delivery person and then maybe another, and then suddenly you're becoming basically that manager that now all of the time needs to manage people instead of now doing the sales, because now you have 2 to 3 people working on the projects, but then you have so many projects, so many clients. It can be done probably, and people I think have done it previously, but I don't think it's necessary to go in this very, very complex route and bring in so much chaos and complexity when I
Yeah.
don't think it's necessary if you have the right systems in place before you bring the delivery person.
Yeah. When you've got the chaos and you bring people in, you only, like, it's like AI, if you put AI over top of the chaos, you're just going to amplify the chaos,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So with people, if you haven't systemized, if you haven't got efficient processes, if you haven't got all of that, then all you're doing is adding more humans to manage your chaos, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
So
you know what an interesting thing is that a lot of people then, from the disses I've seen like firsthand, they're basically the solution to solve this problem is to then hire more people.
yeah,
Like, oh, okay, it's very complex. Nobody like can do anything. Okay, let me hire just one more person to maybe a manager of the managers to maybe fix this. And then, by the time you're working with a 10 people team, yes, you might have grown. Yes, you actually might have achieved your revenues and stuff, but the internal chaos and the day-to-day running that business is just so stressful. And yeah, it's not the way I would advise people to run their
no,
businesses.
especially in this day and age, you wouldn't want to do that because the thing is, if you've got a repetitive tasks,
Hmm.
no human should be doing those things. They should be automated. They should be AI or automation. Automation's
Hmm.
been around for donkey's years, right? I mean, AI has been around since the 50s or something. So it's like the more the more chaos you have, the more people you add, the more chaos you're going to create, the more complexity you're going to create, the more headaches you're going to have because you
Hmm.
have to manage those human beings and they're not going to get along and all sorts of different things, dynamics are going to happen. I totally agree. And like when I was talking to my client this afternoon, she said, "Oh, yeah, once I've got it systemized, then I can get my assistant to run this." I said, "Yeah, absolutely." Because once you've got a system, then the human doesn't have to spend so much time doing the work. They're just monitoring or managing or
Yeah.
doing a small portion of it, right? But everything else is just like a well-oiled machine. It just keeps running every single time.
Exactly. And I mean, now that we have sophisticated automations, we have AI that can run a lot of things. Now the decision should be even slower before hiring people because you now need to think about, okay, maybe you can still hire people, but you should hire them inside of some sort of automation and AI systems that are in place rather than bring in people and then trying to figure out what you can do. So it's like it becomes a much more strategic decision of like we still need people, we still need teams, but what they do and how they do things need to be much more strategically thought of, like rather than just, hey, let me just bring in somebody and then we'll figure out how to work. No, you should like have some strategy behind this. You should always think about AI and automations, what that can handle, because that also like tells you what type of people you need. So, once you figure that out, you then know who to exactly hire to basically
Yeah,
benefit your company the most.
yeah. Especially if you're a solopreneur or an entrepreneur and you're wanting to scale, you want to bring on people who don't have the experience or the skills that you don't have.
Hmm.
So like for me, I've just connected with two people who one's in the IT space and the other one's in database administration and
Hmm.
architecture. So together, we all have our own strengths, but together we can work together to provide a service. So that's okay. But if you, yeah, I still, yeah, I agree with you that if you keep adding people to the complexity, then you're making it even more complex.
Yeah, and then solving that is becomes even more impossible or like difficult to do because
It's like
then
spaghetti.
to untangle that, it's crazy. So I mean, I always love to, at least in my mind, let me start off from the right foot, because even if it takes longer, even if it's more complex, down the line it should be much more easier that way. For some clients, even like I suggest that we remake their website from the ground up rather than improve the old one, since improving the old one, because it was built on such a not the right foundation for the goals that we want to achieve with SEO and AI search, it would be much more expensive, complex, and time consuming to fix what we have rather than to start over. So sometimes that might also be a better sort of decision to make. Oh, with people, it's very difficult to start over your business, start over your agency, but in some regards, in some specific projects where it's possible, then yeah, sometimes it's much, much easier to just start over because it's cheaper, it's faster, and you will get more better results rather than trying to improve some old system that will require too much time and effort.
Yeah, 100%. I remember last year I was wanting to get a website built, and these people were going to do it on WordPress. It was just like banging my head against a brick wall because I wasn't getting anywhere, and
Mm-hmm.
what they built wasn't what I wanted. And then
Mm-hmm.
then I met with a guy from my networking group, and I said, Mark, what do I do about this website thing? He says, dude, why don't you just use Lovable to build your website? And I was like, really? So I went home, signed up to Lovable, and built my website in like half a day.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
now today, if you go into the back end of Lovable, AI, SEO, and search is built into it.
Mm-hmm.
And you can
Yeah.
run it, and it will tell you exactly what the issues are on your website. And my website, if you look up Champion Mindset Collective, it's top. It's at the top of the search engine. I've created the files and so on so that search, SEO,
Mm-hmm.
and LLMs are now scraping my website.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden, I've got people coming to me saying, I was on ChatGPT and it suggested I should be on your podcast. So I'm like, okay. So working.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. It's crazy what these tools can do these days. I think we're still in a transition. I mean, I think the amount of people that still use or have like a pro versions of any AI tool is like just a couple of percent in the whole world. So I think we're still in so like early ages of this AI thing because the possibilities are much bigger than I think people are realizing and using.
Yeah.
So I think it's gonna become an even bigger thing where people will be able to build their own things, apps, and websites just by typing in. And also, we have to note this is the worst that this particular AI will ever be.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
what
Yeah,
if you're
absolutely.
building a website? This is the worst it
Worst
will be, which
ever be.
means it's gonna be even easier and better, and with even less errors and less time to build what you need. In just a few years' time.
Yeah. And it's not like you're gonna miss out because there's always going to be people that don't know or don't want to do it. We've just got to make sure that we don't go into that scarcity mindset. We go into an abundance of people out there that need my
Mhm,
services, and they're coming,
mhm,
And
mhm.
so often we tend to protect ourselves and go, I need to hold on to this, otherwise I'm going to lose out. But it's like, no, there's an abundance there. We've got 8 billion people. So it's like, you got,
Yeah, yeah, that is true. That is true. At some point when I was freelancing, I thought I'm running out of people. It's very funny, but at some point I was thinking I was running out of clients or people to work with, when in reality there's just an insane amount of people out there with all of their needs and stuff. So you will never run out of people to offer your services to.
Now, a lot of people get caught between the desire of growth and wanting to maintain freedom or profitability for the small businesses. What advice would you give to someone who's trying to figure out if they should lean or push for an agency growth?
That is a difficult question. I mean, it really depends on your goals and your lifestyle and sort of what you do. For me, for example, it was a very difficult decision. As I mentioned, like 5, 6 years ago, I was already thinking about doing an agency. And at that time, I decided not to. So I decided to be a freelancer and just continue freelancing, maybe improving my freelancing, maybe doing some side projects. Didn't know at the time where life will take me. So I was just like, hey, let me just continue freelancing, continue building, growing this, and see where sort of life takes me. So to actually make a switch and decide to do an agency was a very big thing that I needed to overcome myself, since I was for somehow I really sort of embedded into my mind that I should not do an agency. But should you stay lean? Should you push for an agency? This is my personal opinion, but I think the perfect balance is a very lean agency. So I don't think like growing a big agency, like, 10 plus people is right for everybody. And I don't think it's the best thing to do to be a one person team or a one person freelancer or a business owner. I think having a small team, like two up to 5 people, let's say, is probably ideal in this world and where we're going. Because again, a couple of more people means you can do and achieve a lot more than just being on your own. Even if we're talking about the simple admin stuff, like if you just have a VA, not like, and that handles a lot of admin stuff, that frees up more time for you to work on your business, go to client meetings, do more sales, be on more podcasts, whatever sort of your thing is. So I think that I think we're moving into this world where we will see a lot more these called lifestyle businesses pop up, where it's like 5 to 6 people, doing, crazy numbers, crazy revenues, and sustaining basically the whole team. I've seen now a lot more of these lean teams popping up, lean agencies, lean business sort of kind of collectives. So I think we're moving into the world where the small business owners with remote teams, 5 to 6 people, will become like the norm and the standard, and they will outgrow anyone who's trying to do alone. And they might even have a better work-life balance or lifestyle business for somebody that wants to do like, 10 plus people company. I mean, we're now talking about a full-on company, and it's a whole other thing. If that's your thing, that's amazing. You can go for it. But I think the general advice for a majority of people is to figure out how to add at least a couple of people to your team, use AI and automations, and basically scale that to to something where you have more than enough to live the life that you want.
Yeah, 100%. What are some of the non-negotiables for when it comes to balancing your growth and freedom?
I do believe in balancing things, and I want to balance growth and also have freedom and flexibility. But I think we all live in these sort of stages where at some stage you need to, like, you cannot do everything all at once. Like, you cannot do like train for marathon and then train for bodybuilding at the same time and then also try to grow an agency. Like, we all have limited time and energy to do what we want to do. So the balance here is to figure out what is your quest for this quarter, this year, and really, really go for it. Because ideally, you achieve some level of like success in that thing, where then you can shift your focus to something else. So for me, for example, right now, I'm less balanced on like freedom and flexibility and more focused on actually growing this agency, because I understand that once I reach certain level of scale of for this agency and certain level of growth, I will be able to take myself out more, which then I can sort of have that like more freedom and then have more balanced life and then balance that growth and freedom. But I believe in the beginning, you do require to work quite a bit, especially in the beginning, to basically set those things up. If you're very focused and you're very strategic, it only takes, I think, like just a couple of years for these things to materialize.
Can you share an example, a specific example from your story on your own journey where you had to unlearn something about business or success to pursue the path that you felt more authentic to you?
I'll come back to that decision to actually become an agency owner, to build an agency. I struggled with that for a very long time, because I think in the first 4 years of freelancing, I already started thinking that, oh, okay, I'm a freelancer, but what if I hire more people, get a bigger team? Marketing agency was just a natural next step to basically go into. But again, I had these preconceived notions of what the agency needs to be. I didn't like what I saw or even the experience that I had working at the marketing agency myself. And so I really struggled with this decision to not to do the agency. Eventually, I went to Ali Abdal's, he's a huge YouTuber on YouTube. He hosted a big mastermind of people like earning over $100,000 per year in London. And then when I went to that mastermind last year, I met so many business owners, so many people basically running these lean teams. Even his own team, like even his own business was he had a lot of his employees at that mastermind as well, just also chatting with them and seeing how things are running behind the scenes. That helped me to really unlearn all of the assumptions that I had about how agency or a business should be run. And then I talked to more people afterwards, and just eventually I figured that there is no certain specific rules of how things need to be done. There are other ways of doing things, and that is when I finally unlearned that I actually can be an agency owner and I can run things and I can be a founder, because I had my freelancing identity was so strongly embedded into me. Once you've done something for 10 years, it's very difficult to let that go, that identity, and unlearn being on your own for so long, and then have a team, be the main person on that team, and guide everybody. So it's been quite a journey, and it's been more tough than I would have thought that it would be. This is one of the things that I regret. I should have started the agency like 4 years ago. Like that was a time when I should have done things, and I did procrastinate. I didn't know much at that time, so that is probably one of the regrets that I have for not starting things a lot sooner.
Yeah. Well, the right time is the right time, and
Yeah,
you had to obviously learn a few things along the way or unlearn a few things as well to get to the point where you could actually start your agency.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
now, for freelancers or agency founders who want to build a truly, intentional and more sustainable business, what is one practical framework or question that they should be asking themselves right now?
Well, you always have to start with what is your goal in mind? Like, what are you trying to achieve? What are you trying to build? Because for a lot of people, the answer will differ, and that different answer basically suggests what exactly you need to do. Like, is your goal to build a billion-dollar empire? Is your goal to like really be, work on a 30 team business for 30 people, or you're looking for a lifestyle business, or you want a lean team? So just first things is always to like understand what you actually want from your business. Like, what does it needs to do to you, and how do you want to work on it? That is the thing that I also needed to figure out myself before sort of I did anything, and that helped me shape the decisions that I make regarding the business. So it's a lot easier to make a decision when I know how that business needs to serve me rather than me serving that business.
Mm.
So the goals and the actual understanding of what is the most important to you will guide you if you need a VA, or you need 5 people, or you should also already start thinking about hiring 10 people instantly because you want super high growth and you want to work on much bigger businesses than anybody else. So these things will guide you as long as you understand what you actually want to achieve from that business.
And what is one step that they can take today to apply that?
I suppose the first step here, for me at least, I always liked to think not from the business perspective, but from a lifestyle perspective. I always thought first of, okay, what I want my lifestyle to look like, and what then can I do to basically achieve that lifestyle. And I did that from a very young age. I did that already while being in high school. I always imagined at the time very primitively, what car I want, what house I want, and then from there, what is the price of those items, and then how do I basically, okay, how much do I need to earn? What is the amount that I need to borrow to buy that house? And basically it trickles down to actually what kind of income you need, and then how do I earn that income? What kind of companies or businesses pay that income? So it's kind of that going down that pyramid to understand what, and breaking down things to understand what actually you need. So one thing that I think people can do right now is to figure out their exact lifestyle that they want to support with their business. which means, okay, so where do you want to live? How do you want to spend your time? How much time do you want to spend on your business? And what do you want your business to allow you to do? Like, if you are the type of person that has to fly private jets or first class, well, then you need to think about businesses that can actually support that kind of lifestyle. If you're more modest and you're good with just, I don't know, just hiking all the time in the mountains, then you need probably more of a freelance lifestyle where you have your own freelance business, 3 to 5 people, and then all day, every day, what you do is you hike in the Alps. That's your lifestyle. So figuring this out is the number one thing that I would do in their place. Sit down and have this brainstorming session of what you want your life to look like. What is the ideal week for you? This is usually sort of the thing that I see most often advised, is that figure out how your ideal regular week would look like, and based on that, you can sort of move forward.
Yeah. Now, last question. How do you check in with yourself and make sure that you are on that intentional path?
A good question. How do I check on myself? I don't.
You don't. It's an
Yeah,
opportunity for you to start
yeah,
doing that.
yeah. I think I need to, like, and I mean, this is the. I think all of us at some point, once we are in some sort of a momentum, we we are in a flow and we forget to check in if we are basically building what we want to build. So that is also, like, your question is a very good reminder to me to basically check in and see if I'm sort of on that intentional path. I think I am, but I need to dig in deeper. However, I feel that best way to do that is to once a year, like every New Year's Eve, me and my wife basically do these kind of goal setting exercises. Like, we check on what happened last year, and then basically we see what we want to do the next year. And we've been doing that for the past couple of years. And I think this has been the most helpful exercise to basically see if we are still on track on all the things that we want to be doing. So for me, that is probably what I'm doing right now. I think I should do it a bit more often since things are now moving very, very fast. But yeah, like checking in once a year on the New Year's Eve is the thing that I personally currently doing to see if I'm achieving the goals that I want to achieve. But I think I can also do better.
I think we can flip that and say that, because we often set goals on, and a lot of people set goals on New Year's Eve, and
Hmm.
then come end of January, it's all gone, right? But
Yeah.
I think if we set intentions on a daily basis
Hmm.
and we say, this is what I want to happen today, right? And I do this thing called segment intending. So if you've ever heard of Abraham Hicks, Esther Hicks, she talks about segment intending, which is basically when I wake up in the morning and I'm in my alpha state brainwave, I'm just
Hmm.
waking up. I do gratitude and so on, and then I go, today, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. This is
Hmm.
going to happen. I'm putting this intention out there, and 9 times out of 10, it happens, and it happens even better than what I thought it would happen. So, if we get intentional in every moment that we
Hmm.
live, then imagine what we can, rather than just doing it once a year.
Yeah.
Imagine you could have a goal. Okay, well, this year this is where I want to achieve. But then it's like you set a yearly goal, but then you work out what is your quarterly goals, what are your
Hmm.
monthly goals, what are
Yeah.
your daily goals, and so it's like, what is one small thing I can do today or in this moment, and it's going to move me forward in my
Hmm.
in having a lifestyle that actually. And I think most humans want freedom and
Hmm.
happiness and joy. Most humans are not asking for a job or
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
I love what Daniel Priestley talks about, is that a lifestyle business, which is you're actually thinking about what you want your life to look like, and then how does your business or your job fit into this puzzle that
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
building.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I need to be better in this. I think
Oh, I
I'm a
think we
bit
all
more
can.
cake.
We all
Yeah.
can.
I think I'm more
Yeah.
chaotic. I mean, I am setting some goals, and I'm reviewing some quarters, but it's not as systematic as it should be. And I think that would provide much more clarity to what I'm doing right now. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's difficult when you're on this really big flow state of trying to grow this thing, this agency, and kind of lift it from the ground to that next level where it would feel that it's much more, sustainable than when you're still in this building phase.
Yeah, I think, look, the flow state is where we must be.
Yeah.
It's not about hustling and grinding and forcing. I think, it's like when you're dating, if you chase a girl, she's going to run away from you, right? So life is like that. So if you just let
Mm-hmm.
ease and let
Mm-hmm.
life open up to what life's got for us,
Mm-hmm.
you might find that there's actually a lot more coming for you than what you think. So I think we're just going to be open and available to whatever the universe or the life has got for us. Um, yeah. Now, tell us a little bit about your agency and what you're doing. How are you helping people? Also, how did they contact you? What have you got on offer? Have you written any books? Have you, anything like that?
Yeah, sure. So I run a personal branding agency, Avium, and we help keynote speakers, book offers, high level executives, and founders build their personal brands. That is the thing that the agency was built on, and that we do. Avium.vip, that's the website for the agency. So testimonials, video testimonials, clients that we work with, case studies, everything is there. Uh, Personally, I'm on YouTube. If you search my name and surname, you'll find me just sharing my vlogs on my agency journey. And then I'm also very active on LinkedIn nowadays, posting a lot more behind the scenes content there. So usually I'm just a Google search away from all of the links and everything.
Yeah. What we'll do is, obviously, though, your details will be in the show notes, but also on the Champion Mindset Collective hub or ecosystem, there will be a
Yeah.
page dedicated to this episode. And on that episode page, you'll find all of Benas's details, his bio, his links. There'll be an article, there'll be a practical guide. So everything that you've shared today will be distilled down into a 3-page practical guide that people can download for free. And they can actually start learning about your journey and how they could apply that in theirs. And also the videos. So the beauty about the Champion Mindset Collective is that you don't even have to leave that page. Everything you want is on that page. You don't even have to go to YouTube. You can watch the video on the page, and so everything's there. Yeah. Now we are at the point where I've got the quick fire round, which is 6 very quick questions. You can answer these in a single word or a short sentence.
Yeah. Let's do this.
Are you ready? Okay, so here we go.
Yeah.
The first question is, how do you define success, and has that definition evolved for you over time?
Success now for me means living the life that I want to live, plain and simple. If I'm living the way I want to live, then that is successful, whatever that means. And I mean, will differ from every single person. So if you're living the life that you truly feels authentic to you, then that is success.
Who's been your greatest inspiration and why?
My father, he's a businessman. He didn't teach me any specific business things, but I think he opened up my mind. He made business and entrepreneurship such a natural thing that I didn't even question that I wanted to do this. It feels so natural to go into business, to be an entrepreneur. So his encouragement to me to read certain books, to learn about negotiation, to learn about sales, I think really inspired and influenced me and shaped me to who I am today.
What is something that you believe that others may disagree with?
Good question. I'm a believer of making things as simple as possible. And I do understand that some people might look at this, and at least I've seen people really disagree with that sort of thing where I use the most basic software and they really discourage me that no, that doesn't do anything. How do you scale? How do you do, like, they always think that the most simplest way of doing things, or at least some people find out that the way I do things is the most basic Google Doc or the most basic note, and it works, and they're very surprised by it of how I'm not using anything more advanced than that. So I stand by that. Simple tools are enough to get you very, very far until you need something more advanced.
Yeah, 100%. Is That's the acronym of keep it simple, stupid, right?
Yep. Yeah,
And
yeah.
if you could go back and give your younger self some advice, what would it be?
Don't procrastinate. Like, go faster. Like, I think I've spent way too much time on these decisions. Should I do this? Should I not do this? Should I start this thing? I think I moved too slowly. So if I could go back, the one thing that I would encourage my younger self is to make decisions faster and move through like stages that I moved through like a lot faster. I think I stayed way too long at certain stages before waiting to see sort of what happens next. So because now I'm 32, so if I would have moved at the faster pace by this time, I think I would already have the full financial freedom that I kind of always dreamed of. So it's just about making those decisions faster, getting that agency off the ground, 4 years ago rather than right now.
Yeah, 100%. What is one message you'd like to share with the world?
I think nowadays, with all the AI, with all the internet podcast, and just the amount of knowledge and things that we are able to see on our phones and everywhere, I think it makes us feel that life is very complicated and that you can do so many things. And then you have this decision fatigue where you don't even know, like you now need to run a marathon, you need to sort of be a bodybuilder, you need to build a business, you need to travel. I think we're exposed to so much of human experience that I don't think we were meant to see, like we lived in tribes. We only saw and heard what other people in our city, in our village, in our tribes were doing. And I think we were wired this way. So now that we have access to everybody all at once, I think it really becomes difficult to kind of comprehend of what we need to do. So my message is that I think we need to keep things simple. We need to kind of go back to the basics. We need to disregard a lot of the stuff that we see and really start looking internally in where we actually feel good and what makes us feel good and what feels very authentic to us. So
Yeah,
looking inwards and keeping things much more simple, I think is the way to go because we're overstimulated with all of the possibilities out there.
that's really wise. I really love what you shared there. Thank you. And what does it mean to you to be a champion and have a champion mindset?
A champion mindset is, for me at least, is to never give up. Like my whole, like why I am where I am right now is because I've tried writing books, creating e-commerce stores, buying e-commerce stores, creating websites, selling websites. I've tried so many different freelancing, like the amount of experiments, the projects that I've run is just insane. Like in the last 10 years, I've done so many things. And I think what kept me going is the notion that it's not a failure, it's just a project that ended. And then I open a new Google Drive folder, and then that's a new project I need to start. So making sure that every failure is treated as a project that always has an end date makes me want to do another project afterwards. And then you try many projects and then something really pops, something really sort of kicks and flows with you. And is that ability to basically never stop.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's you. One chapter ends, you start another chapter, and
Exactly.
I've been working on this project with a client, and we've had lots of different challenges, and but we're close to finishing it. It's been almost like 8 months, and
Okay.
I
Okay.
feel
Wow.
embarrassed that it's taken so long, but the learnings in that is immense. And also, it's something that I don't think a lot of people have done. So I always tend to pick things that no one else has done. I keep saying this to people. I'm a little bit like Elon Musk. I like to do things that no one's done before, and you know, yeah.
Yeah, it,
So
it, it is fun. I think it does activate our like creativity in some sort of way where
yeah,
it's just like solving a puzzle. So I understand why you kind of you want to approach these types of difficult situations or difficult problems, because it's fun to solve these, and there's very much, like, a lot of excitement when it's actually done.
And you're also showing yourself that, hey, you've done
Mhm.
something that you couldn't even imagine you could do, and then all of a sudden you've done that. So thank you so much, Benas. It's been a wonderful conversation. I've really enjoyed this. You're welcome to come back anytime and join us on the podcast. And
Yeah, I think it would be great to join like in 6 or 8 months' time, see how the agency is going. Maybe I have
yeah,
more learnings or more thoughts about things. Yeah.
I'm sure you will. Yeah, absolutely. And there's also opportunities to work together and do some masterclasses or webinars and so on. So just reach out. So what stood out for me is that really the word is simple. We just have to stop chasing things, and the simple, profitable business is actually the goal for a lot of people. So thank you for sharing your journey with us and through the messy middle. And for everyone who's grappling with growth intentionality, or whether bigger truly is better, I hope this episode gave you some clarity. Make sure that you subscribe, that you share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. You can find all the information in the show notes, but also on the championmindsetcollective.com. On the hub, there's a page dedicated to this episode. And if you're finding or looking to identify where AI and workflow automation can save you time, reduce bottlenecks, and create practical improvements in your business, well, explore the AI Clarity Assessment on the AI Workflows Agency. Until next time, keep cultivating your champion mindset. Thanks for being part of this episode. Lastly, I just want to say you are loved, you're worthy, champion your life, champion your greatness, and have an amazing day.